Welcome to Booming Your Bottom Line, a weekly podcast on how to find, serve, and keep local boomer consumers as your customers. If you are a small business owner, then this podcast is for you. Hosted by Mark Hager, CEO of Age in Place Networks, publisher of ageinplace.com, and expert consultant in the boomer consumer industry. And Aaron Murphy, architect, certified aging in place specialist, national speaker, and published author on aging in place. These two small business owners are going to help you learn what you need to know and step by step what you need to do to grow your company through serving the rapidly growing older consumer niche. Now, get ready to supercharge your business.
Welcome to Booming Your Bottom Line, a weekly podcast where we talk about how to grow or start a business that's serving the amazing demographic opportunity that is the aging baby boomer consumer. I'm Aaron Murphy, and with me today again is my co-host, Mark Hager. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Aaron. How are you?
Great. So last week we kicked off a series about how to educate your staff and your sales team about the boomer consumers and empower those employees to be your partners in creating amazing customer experiences that are going to help keep that boomer consumer for the long term and get you more referrals down the road. Last week, we focused mostly on educating your employees about this opportunity. This week, we're going to continue the series by talking about how you start to empower them to do this critically important and profitable work of connecting, engaging, and building trust and rapport with your older consumer.
So if you missed last week, be sure to go to ageinplace.com/smallbusiness and listen to the last episode, number 13, before you listen to this one. And you can find our archive shows there, or you can subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. Now, like Aaron said, we talked a ton last week about bringing your employees up to speed on your desire to get more boomer customers and how it can impact your community and your business for the better in a big way. And we talked about the need for staff to have some freedom to be able to do what is necessary to ensure your customers have a great experience. Now, when I say freedom, I mean trust. You've got to trust your employees to do it on their own after you train them, and they have to know that you believe in them, or it will not happen correctly, if at all. You will not get buy-in from them if you don't. They also have to know that you support their efforts and that you have their backs should something go not quite right during the learning curve. And that's exactly why today we are going to talk about a real framework that you can use, a set of realistic agreements, if you will, that you can have with them. This is a structure that gives them autonomy, but also gives them the support that they need and a measure of oversight, and you may want to consider the word control, for you as a business owner.
Absolutely. So the agreements that you'll need to make with your employees should include things like, number one, how you're going to communicate about these efforts. Number two, what kind of situations can they handle on their own? Number three, how much are they allowed to do without involving you? And then number four, how should they address or respond to any issues or things that might require your input?
Yep.
Now, before we dig in, you need to keep in mind that these are ideas, okay? We don't have specific insight into your organization. We don't know you personally, any of the people on your team, or do we have a specific history that might influence the effectiveness of any of these ideas? When we do personal coaching one-on-one, we have that. But in the podcast scenario, we don't, okay? So not everything we list was going to work for every company. There are just too many variables. So for this piece, keep your ears open, see what nuggets you can find and use, what you could build on, and you are probably going to find a few things that maybe you personally don't need to consider or won't apply to your organization. So weed through that with open ears.
Exactly. So the first agreement you'll need is around communication. It is the first because it's probably the most important part of the overall plan. How you and your employees manage the flow of information is going to be vital to your success. And things that you might want to include are, how do they get answers to questions or provide feedback about this particular initiative? You know, how do they communicate with you or others on the team when and if you aren't available? You know, maybe is there someone else who will be designated as a second tier or a backup go-to person if you aren't around?
Right.
How how do you want problems or customer service challenges structured when the information is given to you for review or input? What are the important pieces of information that you'll need, and what format do you want them in? And what types of issues are the ones they need to communicate to you or the right person, immediately versus, those that qualify as it can wait until a more reasonable time, maybe a break or a weekly staff meeting, etc.
Right.
Now let me just say quickly about the last point is you don't want them to contact you immediately about everything. And you have to trust them. Remember? You've got to give them that autonomy. So you don't want everything to be an emergency situation. It's going to drive you crazy if you get interrupted, 100 times each day because they don't feel like they can handle something. And them thinking that it's an emergency is also can be flipped around as you micromanaging.
True.
And my opinion is that you should discuss this as a group, get their feedback and opinion, what they think they should contact you on. They're going to have a lot of insight, and if you're being inclusive and you're including them in this, then they're going to be able to tell you what they think that they're going to need input on because they're doing it every single day.
Exactly.
Okay? So then you just make a decision together as what the protocol is going to be, and then you do that. Just don't make everything an emergency. It's too much stress on everyone.
Very good. Good. So now let's talk a little more about that staff autonomy. We talked quite a bit about that last week, but let's get into it again for a second. What is their zone of responsibility when it comes to your customer experience? Where should your employees' parameters exist? And their code of conduct on their own, where does that start and stop? This is where you're going to start to apply some of that knowledge that you gained when you were learning about your customers. We discussed this process at great length in previous episodes if you have to go back. That previously acquired insight and applying best practices and some common sense is going to help you create a structure that gives your staff the feeling that they have the freedom and trust from you to be out there making your company better through excellent customer experiences. That's the end game goal here for you, and it's the right feeling to give your employees. So this part of the agreement structure needs to center around how these staff members are interacting with your customers. What are your expectations of them during that experience, and what should they be doing to meet the goal of an amazing customer experience for your clients, and then as a result for your company? So that employee is independently creating experiences that lead to repeat customers and referrals to other people by your existing customers. Mm-hmm. This is another critical part, and it could include some things like this. How do they greet, speak to, and treat customers? Respectfully, of course. Let's get some scripts in place here for some continuity across the staff language. How much attention should they give a current customer? All their attention is your immediate response, but at a comfortable distance and frequency. So they're not pushy, but they're right there if they're needed. Mm-hmm. What things should they be doing during the interaction? Should they offer to get something off of a shelf, carry the customer's things out to the car, provide valuable insight and product service information to help them make good decisions? Even if that advice is something other than your own products and services. When you're that honest with your customers, that is just a critical way to get loyalty. If you know you're not the right answer and you don't pretend to be for everybody, boy, you're going to get a lot of positive commentary out in the community. So when should your staff interject themselves or introduce themselves in a customer visit to your store or office? Is it immediately a general welcome? Or is it the possibility they provide some unsolicited feedback or assistance? How can I help? That's always a great thing to be asking. These and other items are really important for you to cover with your staff ahead of time, so you're creating a comfortable solution and you're doing it together as a team.
Absolutely.
You need to break down every way you can think of and visualize, at least mentally, visualize flowcharts, okay? If yes, if no, go here. So that when your customers come in contact with you and your employees, it's not just you, the owner. whether it's in store, on a service call out in the field, or even other social situations like networking or out in a community, an event, or daily activities like shopping. Just think about what generally happens during those interactions. Talk about the possibilities of weird and funny things that happen with your customers at times.
They do.
They do. Yeah, and it's okay to relax and joke behind closed doors. Again, we're looking for continuity and buy-in from everybody on your business family team, okay? So then let them discuss how they're going to handle these situations. You're creating a playbook for your office, okay? You will likely, as this involves experientially, want to even make some time for role-playing, situations and scripts that you get to practice, so the practice becomes comfortable for everybody that's going to be on your front line representing your company.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Now, also, I'd like to have you make sure, again, this goes back to the last episode, make sure you take notes on what you're hearing from your employees and get that information in written form back to the staff so that, number one, it's documented. Number two, it's clear to your team that they were heard. Okay, that's how you get buy-in from your business family. Mm-hmm. You might not implement everything every employee tells you as an idea, but you need them to know that their input was recognized. Again, right. More on that last episode, but it's critical.
Yep. Okay, so the next part is to give them the steps, and again, you can think, in terms of flow charts, that you want them to take if something goes wrong. Now, what are the steps to triage a problem or do a service recovery? You want to note here again which situations they may encounter that they can handle on their own. Remember, not everything is an emergency. It requires you to intervene, or it won't work. And also, which situations qualify as needing a manager or the boss to remedy or alleviate the problem. And this portion of the agreement structure should include things about, what do you, the owner, consider an emergency? How do you, the boss, want to be contacted in this situation? What information do they need to have previously acquired and physically in hand when they initiate interrupting you to alleviate a negative situation that is, underway? Something like the problem, what it is, what they tried to do, and where the situation stands right now. Okay, so also, how are you likely to respond? This is important information for them to have ahead of time. If the customer's not in the store, I'm going to tell you, if the customer's in the store, I'm going to tell you that I want them to do X. Okay. Or I will ask you to tell them, that I will help them with the problem, and I will call them by such and such a time, and please get the number so I can follow up. It just not only gives the employee an idea of how you're going to react. It's going to be a flat reaction. It's not something you're going to get worked up about. You're just going to want the facts, and you're going to tell them exactly what they need to do.
Yeah, you bet. And let me just say about, staff calling on you for your assistance. Just be prepared, okay? They are going to call on you. They're going to ask for your help. It's inevitable. It's going to be more frequent than you might like in the beginning of this learning curve, okay? But that said, as the leader and the boss of your organization, you can't, Mark just mentioned this, you can't be defensive or grumpy every time the staff needs you, regardless of that frequency during this sort of training and ramp-up phase.
Yep.
Why? Well, number one, they're doing what you told them to do. And number two, they're working to ensure you keep a customer, right? And three, let's not forget this point, customers are the reason you're in business. Mm-hmm. So please keep all that in mind as you undergo this process toward this amazing new growth opportunity, okay? As you as their leader do not want to be the actual reason the staff's afraid to call on you for help. If they aren't reaching out to you, they're likely going it alone, probably too far for your own comfort, and you aren't getting any feedback during this learning curve. So you need it to adjust your sales and write your course to ensure that you're getting that great customer experience out on the floor or on the phone that leads to new, loyal, referring customers that grow your business.
Right.
See how this is all tying together? Okay. So in some way, I think we all need to continue, at least for a time in the beginning of this new paradigm thinking. We need to know that we're relying on you and your required participation. Okay, that's what the staff's thinking. And it does require it, it will require it, and that's a good thing. Okay, it's going to be so worth it in the long run.
Absolutely.
Now that brings us to the next point in discussion. Where is that line on how much your staff's allowed to do in good faith? And with our previous goal of empowering them and giving them autonomy without you being involved. You're going to need to think about this one and relay your decision clearly to your team. Is it up to the point where they think out on the floor and on the fly they might lose a customer? Or is it a dollar amount on a total purchase? This is a tough spot for us, okay? We can't really give you specific stop-loss datum points, okay? Because every business is different. So are the dynamics, customers, price points, and the cause and effect type costs or potential losses on a per customer basis or a sales basis. But both of these ideas that I just mentioned a moment ago are about service recovery examples. The possibilities on how it looks and feels and how it's structured for your business, there are infinite ways to look at that. And again, when Mark and I coach one-on-one, we can get into all that. We just can't do it here in a podcast. So this is where good communication is going to come into play between you as a leader and your team. Your employees are going to learn with you together and talk about real issues. Don't forget to be, funny and anecdotal and help them relax as you go through these examples and experiences. It's critical for you to talk about these efforts a lot during the ramp-up phase, okay, toward the growth goal. The employees are going to get a feel for you specifically, what you would do, what you want done in a given situation after you've spent this time on the front end being actively involved and participating in this exercise for a while. So keep the dialogue going, keep it open, keep it flowing, trusting and safe. That is your internal communication goal with your team. And it's the key to buy-in by your staff and all your employees, your business family.
Right. And like Aaron said, communication is so critically important. We cannot state that enough. Talking about this whole effort before, during, and after you start making changes in your company is vital to the success. And it's vital to your growth. You've got, you're building, you're collaborating together to further your company, and the thing that makes it something worthwhile for everyone is that you're doing it to impact your community in a positive way. You are helping to make people's lives better.
Right.
That's the selling point. Okay, so that's why we said that you should keep up the employee meetings on a regular basis so you have a set time to talk about progress and problems or what's working or what's not working. Being approachable and available to your employees is just fundamental to your success.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going to stop here today. That was a ton to digest. Next week, we're going to finish up talking about educating and empowering your employees, and specifically how to get all the parts we discussed in this and the last episode working together and letting it run.
Sounds good. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you do visit our website at ageandplace.com/small business and sign up for our weekly insider tips and newsletters. Great resource for you. We promise that. And it's stuff we don't talk about above and beyond the podcast. If you have any questions, we'd love to cover a particular topic in our podcasts or work with you one-on-one or in a team coaching scenario with your staff to help you grow your business. Just drop us a note at smallbusiness@ageandplace.com.
Now, usually we ask you to go over to iTunes and search for Booming Your Bottom Line and leave us a star rating. We do love hearing how we're doing from our listeners, but this week we would like to ask you something different.
Right, Mark. As you probably know by now, our goal in providing all this free and valuable information each week in the podcast format is to help as many small business owners as we can. And we're thankful for each and every one of you that listen and engage with us via the podcasts each week and our newsletters and all that other resource we provide. So this week, our request for you is, please, would you share this podcast with someone you know?
It would surely help us out in spreading the message, doing more good, and helping more small business owners to their success.
Yeah.
Have a great week. Be well, be blessed, and boom your bottom line.
Thanks so much for listening to Booming Your Bottom Line with Mark Hager and Aaron Murphy. To learn more about starting, building, and growing a local business that profits in the older consumer niche, just visit the website at agentplace.com/smallbusiness. And don't forget to sign up for the newsletter while you're there. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can email us at smallbusiness@agentplace.com. Fill out the contact form on the website or give us a ring at 865-236-1247. Booming Your Bottom Line is a joint venture of agentplace.com and empowering the mature mind.